Hello class, this is Demetrius with BA 156. We are now on Chapter 11, Nonverbal Delivery. Very important to understand nonverbal cues, not just the cues that we learn and understand from direct communication or verbal communication that's delivered toward us. Learning objectives for the chapter: demonstrate nonverbal communication and describe its role in the communication process. It aids verbal communication and sometimes it replaces verbal communication. Understand and explain the principles of nonverbal communication. Describe the similarities and differences among 8 general types of nonverbal communication. Other learning objectives are: demonstrate how to use movement to increase the effectiveness of your presentation. Like a comedian, a lot of them don't just stand there, they move from point A to B to C and back to point A. Demonstrate how to use visual aids effectively in your presentation. And demonstrate 3 ways to improve nonverbal communication. So there are some principles of nonverbal communication. It is fluid and continuous. It is fast, like the movement of hands. It can add or replace, like I initially said, it can add or replace verbal communication. So it can add to it or it can replace it altogether. It is universal. It is confusing and contextual, and it can be very confusing. A lot of times people, what they show you will be the opposite as to what they tell you, and it can confuse you. It can be intentional or unintentional, right? Sometimes people, do things because they're nervous. It communicates feelings and attitudes, and sometimes people don't know that it communicates those feelings and attitudes. People believe nonverbal communication more than verbal, right? So always, right, and this is, part of your assignment too, if someone's face looks a certain way, that's telling more of the truth than what they're saying and the words that are coming out of their mouth. It is key in the speaker/audience relationship. A lot of times, people, want to have good movement just so they're moving around so people can stay awake, or so that people don't just see them just standing there, and then they can follow them with their eyes so that they don't, lose focus on what they're speaking about. I want you to pause on this slide like we normally do, and these are some nonverbal expressions. So you have adapters. So on this side you'll have the terms, and on this side you'll have the definition. So adapters, they help us feel comfortable and indicate emotions or moods. Affect displays, express emotions or feelings, right? So I want you to go through each term and each definition. So pause here. Once you're down to self-adapters and you read the definition, then I want you to move forward from there and go to the next slide that I'll be on. So types of nonverbal communication: you have space, you have time, you have physical characteristics, body movements, like I said, movement of the hand, different time, different space, like movement of your actual physical body or movement of a body part. Touch, paralanguage, artifacts like tattoos and things of that nature. Environment, you can set up different displays as well. So this is, funny, a picture, but it's true. So you have 4 main categories of distance. So like right here, it's my very, very personal, intimate bubble, right? Don't come into that bubble unless, you think something's, intimate is going to happen. Your personal space is right around here, family or friends or somewhere in that space. Social is right over here, so maybe not family and friends, but, social setting. And then public space is everybody else that you might see out and about. Right, so people, some cultures very much would be in these closer bubbles, and other cultures, keep it way out here in the distance. Time, chronomics is a study of how we refer to and perceive time, and to show your audience respect by honoring them the time expectation associated with your speech. So if I say my speech is going to be an hour, then it's definitely going to be an hour. It's not going to run to be 2 hours, because you have to respect people's time. Across cultures, the value of time may vary. So like in South America, it's a lot different than would be in the United States. It's not a big deal if you show up to a meeting late. Not as punctual as the United States. So you just have to know and understand what culture you're in. Physical characteristics. We often make judgments about a person's personality or behavior based on physical characteristics, and we all do that. People say, I don't, but yeah, people definitely do that. Being comfortable with yourself is an important part of your presentation. If you're not, people can see it, they can understand it, they can see the nerves, and you don't want to be that person. Body movements can complement the verbal message by reinforcing the main idea, like I'm going to get it done, right? They can regulate conversations, stop, right? It can substitute or place verbal messages. So instead of bye, I just wave, right? So types of touch, I want you guys to also pause on this slide. I want you to look at the term and then the definition. You look at functional to professional touch, medical examination, physical therapy, sports coach, music teacher, right? Those are just forms of professional touch. Sometimes there'll be some touch involved in that, but it's professional, or it should be professional. Social polite touch is a handshake, right? And so just want you, simply go through the terms and the definition. These are things that, we all know, but just kind of put them in the proper bucket and know the definition of it, or the term, what the term is actually called, and then the actual definition, which you already know the definition. It's just better to know the term as well. Paralanguage exists when we are speaking using words. Involves verbal and nonverbal aspects of speech that influence meaning, including tone, right? So your tone, the way you say things, definitely dictates how people feel about what you said. I'm not ready yet, right? That means you're agitating. Or I'm not ready yet, right? It's a total different thing when you add a different tone to the same message. Intensity, when you say things and you're intense, like you're coaching. You could be very, very intense, or you could be very unintense. It was a, good game. You'll get them next time. Or it's like, you absolutely, blew the game, right? And you're very intense about the comments that you're indicating to your player. Pausing, right? Dramatic pauses, things of that nature. Silence, when you just stop and don't say anything. People wonder like, oh no, what he's thinking? What is he thinking? Am I in trouble? Artifacts and environment are forms of decorative ornamentation that are chosen to represent self-concept, right? So you conceive yourself as something, right? That's what you put on a tattoo, right? So rings, tattoos, brand names, and logos. Environment involves the physical and psychological aspects of the communication context. The perception of one's environment influences one's reaction, right? So how you perceive your environment, and that's going to influence how you react to certain things. Movement in your speech, so positions on the stage, like I talked about a comedian moving around. It's the 1, 2, 3 approach, right? You move from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then back to 1. As a movement technique, the speaker's triangle can help you remember each of your main points, because if you move the point from 1 to 2, that's your transition now. Oh yeah, I remember this is what I need to say in 2, bubble 2, and then I move over to bubble 3. This is what I need to say in bubble 3. Allows you to break down your speech into manageable parts, like how they say, how can you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. Can help demonstrate your purpose and reinforce your credibility, right? And there's a image of the speaker's triangle. I go from here, right, to here, then to down here, and then I just repeat, just moving around. And here I'm talking about economics, and here I'm talking about marketing, and down here I'm talking about my conclusion, and back to here I'm talking about product placement, and back to here I'm talking about market differentiation, right? And back to here I'm talking about creating new markets, right? So you just go through your speaker's triangle. Gestures. Well-chosen gesture can help make a point memorable, right? Types of gestures, anticipation step. I saw a really good when I was at this conference, and then Joe Theismann, he was the speaker there, and he was talking about working hard and everything like that. And he actually came off the stage, walked into the crowd, and he was talking to people, and the camera was like right in his face, and he was like, 'cause if you work hard, then you'll have one of these. And he put his hand up like that, and it showed his big fat Super Bowl ring. And the camera like came in on, and everybody saw, and it was really really good in terms of him putting that emphasis on it. So you have your implementation step, relaxation step. These are all things that are gestures. You also have facial gestures. They may reinforce or contradict the spoken word, but I'm going to trust what your face says, not what your mouth says. Their impact cannot be underestimated. They should reflect the tone and emotion of your verbal communication. Single most important facial gesture is eye contact. A lot of people don't believe people who don't have proper or good eye contact with you, because you think like, well, why aren't you looking at me? Do you have something to hide? People start twitching, looking down, looking left, the bottom right hand corner, because they're not telling the truth. Visual aids, making your speech more interesting. You can have visual aids, right? Firecracker or fireworks popping in the background, big displays and everything. So it makes it much more interesting when you have visual aids, a big, a board where you take this off and put the different boards up. Enhance your credibility as a speaker because you've already prepared and you're not just saying things. You know that you've prepared and you have these signs that go along with what you're saying. Serve as guides to transitions, helping the audience stay on track, right? Look over here, right? Because this is going to keep you on track with the things and pictures that are on this board. Communicate complex or intriguing information in a short period of time. So I'm speaking to you and you're looking at the visual aid and you're understanding like, okay, I see what he's saying. And then 1 + 1 is 2 and I have everything I need. Reinforces your verbal message, which is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get across the proper intended verbal message and also supplement that with our nonverbal cues as well. Help the audience use and retain the information, right? So you want people to retain, you want them to know and understand what you're saying. And if you want them to do that, then visual aids is a very good way to do so. Purpose, emphasis, support, and clarity of visual aids. So the purpose should almost speak for itself. Emphasis should effectively highlight keywords, ideas, or relationships for the audience. Support should affirm your position and your argument, right? So they should be in alignment. Clarity should be as clear as possible. Shouldn't be left scratching my head after I look at your presentation. Methods and materials. You have a diagram, a chart, a whiteboard, bar, a pie graph, a topographical graph, music. It could have music in the background. Video. Flip charts. Flip charts good because when you flip it, it's a whole new thing. People keeps them awake and alert. Poster board, same with that. Handouts. Handouts you take it to people. But if you have a handout and you give it to them, and they're 50 PowerPoint slides, I remember people used to do this back in the day all the time. They're going to page ahead, and you can't stop them. They're just going to page ahead. I know you're supposed to be on slide number 17, but I'm looking at slide number 47 instead, and PowerPoint presentations, which we're looking at right now. So preparing visual aids, they should meet the following criteria. They should be big, right? Clear, simple, consistent, right? Big, clear, simple, consistent. That's what your visual aid should be. Big, clear, simple, and consistent. Do you make a clear connection between your words and the visual aid for the audience, right? Do they see and understand why I have the big picture of this bear over to the right of me? And if they do, then I did make the clear connection. They do not distract the audience with your visual aid, so it doesn't need to be so over the top so much that I have to keep looking at it, right? That it speaks to your audience. Right? So using PowerPoint like we're using as a visual aid, PowerPoint presentation should not be the main focus. That's one of the reasons why I do these videos is to diminish the digital divide. So that's why we have this right here in the bottom right hand corner. So one, you can hear my voice, see my face, and know that there's some sort of connection. It just takes away the digital divide between the classroom and the teacher. Should support in your presentation. I can guarantee you if I was doing this live and in front of you and in person, it would be a little different because there's certain cues and questions along the way that are asked. It takes so much longer to get through a PowerPoint presentation. So do not use it as a read aloud script for your speech. Like I said, if it was right in front of me and you guys were all right in front of me in a classroom, it would be totally different because I would play off of some of the questions that you guys asked. A little different in a presentation like this, but still want to tie it together for you guys so that it makes sense. Do not use long sentences in PowerPoint slides. Use key terms. Use of color is always good. Like you don't just see a white background on this PowerPoint presentation. When choosing colors, your priority should be legibility, right? So people can see it and understand it. Choose colors that most audience members will be able to differentiate, right? You want to be able to just tell when there's a different color. Blue background, white text. Consider the cultural background of your audience before choosing a color, right? Red might not be a great color in certain societies, so you stay away from red. Attempt and balance between professionalism and attractiveness, right? So you don't want it to be too stiff, but you also want it to look kind of good for the people who you're presenting it to. Helpful hints for visual aids. Keep visual aids simple, right? Keep it simple. Stupid, that's the KISS method, right? KISS, right? Keep it simple. Use one key idea per slide, right? So you want to focus on one. You want to slam all the information in one slide. You want to, just one key idea per slide. Just move on to the next slide. Avoid clutter, noise, and overwhelming slides. Use large, bold fonts that the audience can read at least 20 feet from the screen. And you should know that. So if I go give a presentation and I know where the screen is, can everybody in the room see the screen? If they can't, then I need to do something different. Use contrasting colors to create a dynamic effect. And I'm sure all you guys can understand colors and know how to match and everything. But if you don't, there are plenty of resources that can assist you with that. But I'm pretty sure all of you guys know how to do so. All right. Use clip art with permission and sparingly, right? So you can put, pictures in there, but not too many. You don't want it to overtake your presentation. Edit and proofread each slide with care and caution. A lot of times people don't hit the, spell check on PowerPoint presentations. Use copies of your visuals available as handouts after your presentation. The key thing they said, after your presentation, not before, because they're going to thumb through and they're going to look through and get their own, opinion about everything. You want to lead them in the right direction. And so you see how he said available as handouts after your presentation, not before. Check the presentation room beforehand, and that's seeing if the computer works along with the projector and things like that. So you have to check to make sure those things are in place before you go in there and think that you're going to do a presentation. With any presentation involving technology, always have a backup plan. Like for instance, you could have one of those things that attach to your iPhone, and it puts up a big screen up on any wall. Right, so that could be a backup to having your projector. If the projector breaks, then you can always use the technology on your iPhone to post that all the way up on the wall. Nonverbal strategies with success for your audience. So you want to watch people's reactions. So I'm talking to people, talking to a group live. I want to watch their reactions and see if I need to spend more time on a certain topic. Enroll an observer, focus on a specific type of nonverbal communication. And, a specific type of nonverbal communication is one guy, I know, he used it as a crutch. He always had a cup of coffee in his hand. And then he later told me that there was no coffee in the cup. It was just that he was holding it, kind of holding it as a crutch. But you do want to focus on a specific type of nonverbal communication. And probably in a good way. Like, so if you're moving your hands a lot, then that's great. Move your hands a lot. If you're kind of moving around a lot, then if that's your thing, then that's what you do. But focus on a specific type of nonverbal communication. You don't want to just be moving your hands a lot. Then you're also moving around. It might be a little bit too much for your audience. So that's it for the chapter. Make sure that you go in, complete your assignments, discussions, any applicable quizzes. And let's just keep moving forward. As you can see, we're already on chapter 11, and we only have a little bit left to go in the class. So it seems like it goes by very, very fast, and it does. So as always, have a good day and a great week, and let me know if there's anything that you need via email. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.